You say you love, but I ask you, what exactly do you love? A woman? Or the image you projected onto her to conceal your own misery? Modern man, this eternal beggar for meaning, does not fall in love with human beings. He kneels before fantasies. He needs to believe that the woman is pure, exalted, redemptive, because only then can he justify his own cowardice. He turns flesh into an idol, desire into salvation, and when she bleeds, when she thinks, when she desires, he calls her disappointment. No, my friend, she never lied. It was you who believed too much. Man fears the real woman. He fears her hidden strength, her silent freedom, her logic that escapes his vulgar reasoning. He feels safe only in the presence of a submissive doll who smiles at the right moments and dies inside in silence. The authentic woman, one who does not need saving, one who says no without apology, is unbearable to the malformed male ego. What he calls drama is simply a whole woman. What he calls coldness is merely autonomy. He is not afraid of being rejected. He is afraid of being made unnecessary. But observe, without physical force, without direct power, the woman learned to prevail, not by submission, but by cunning. Where man built walls, she learned to dance through the cracks. She developed a refined intelligence, made of glances, of silences, of masks that do not hide, but protect. What the world labeled fragility was, in truth, camouflage. In a game whose rules were written against her, the woman learned to win without seeming to fight. And now that she no longer needs to hide, the masculine world panics. Everything that is deep loves a mask. I said it, and I repeat it. Woman grasped this truth instinctively. She used appearance not as deceit, but as territory. Makeup, charm, mystery, all of these are not tricks, but languages. Public morality, always so anxious for authenticity, forgets that the world is appearance at its root. The moralist calls falsity what he cannot understand. But the wise woman knows nakedness is a luxury only the powerful can afford. The rest defend themselves with veils. You still believe love is harmony? That man and woman meet as halves that complete one another in an ecstasy of peace? How naive. Love is conflict, negotiation, a battle of wills. Man wants redemption, woman wants security. Both lie, both calculate, both love, in their own way. Romanticism was modernity's greatest hoax. It sold war as an embrace. But I ask you, can you handle love as it is, and not as Hollywood taught you? If so, like this video now. If not, run. There's still time to hide behind the plastic flowers of the romantic comedy. And what of morality? Ah, that old prostitute dressed in sanctity. Women used her, and well, not from weakness, but as strategy. When the world only permitted them silence, they learned to turn silence into a weapon. Patience, humility, self-denial, when wielded with cunning, became strength in the guise of virtue. What man calls female virtue is often simply his inability to perceive that he's being bested. If you still think sweetness is weakness, subscribe to this channel and prove you can learn something before dying of moral boredom. But time changes. Woman no longer needs permission, protection, or approval. She can desire and say it out loud. She can leave and not apologize for going. And man falters. He feels his empire collapse, and like every decaying emperor, he does not weep. He poisons himself with resentment. Women today are no good, he says. No, my friend, they simply no longer need to pretend they admire you. Your throne was built on dependence, and now it stands empty. If this truth troubles you, good. Overcoming inherited roles, that is the true task. But beware, it demands courage, because it implies abandoning the comfort of the script, the handbook of conduct, the old game of victim and executioner, relating without dominating, without submitting, without manipulation. That is, for the few, it is the work of those who no longer need to conquer to love. And you, are you still playing savior or martyr? Or have you dared to step onto life's stage without a role? If you have the courage, stay with me. The next few minutes won't be easier. They will be more real. By mastering appearance, woman is not merely playing, she is creating herself amid oppression, forging identity where substance was denied. This is not lying, it is aesthetics. And aesthetics has always been truer than bare truth. Man, however, fears this creation. He sees woman shaping her image and cries falseness. But deep down, what unsettles him is his own inability to reinvent himself with the same audacity. He envies her command over perception because he remains a slave to his own transparency. Love is not unity, it is tension. And if it is genuine, it is creative tension. Only the weak crave eternal harmony. The strong endure friction, dissonance, fluctuation. They understand that love is a bridge, not a destination, and that beneath that bridge there is always an abyss. The man who seeks peace in love is in the wrong place. He should be in a monastery. The woman who seeks voluntary submission does not love. She is fleeing. True encounter is between forces, not between lacks, and for that reason, it is as rare as it is brutal. The tragedy, my friends, is not the conflict between man and woman. It is the lie we tell to avoid it. It is the pathetic attempt to soften the abyss to turn war into marriage, confrontation into complicity, potency into cheap poetry. They want us to believe that to love is to yield, that to understand is to forgive, that to live as two is to give yourself up. But I tell you, to love is to resist without erasing. It is to face the other as an abyss and still remain, with no eternal promises, no celestial illusions, just two beings trying not to crush each other while dancing on the edge of a precipice. If woman is a mask, man is armor. She plays with subtlety. He plays with rigidity. She feigns feeling to survive. He feigns not feeling to dominate. And both lose themselves in their own defenses. But there is a moment, rare and dangerous, when two masks confront each other and, for a brief second, there is no theater, only presence. That is where authentic love is born, when no one is trying to win, when the woman need not be saintly, nor the man need be godly, when both accept that they are merely human, tragic, imperfect, complex, and yet desirable. The moralist looks at this tragic dance between the sexes and despairs. He wants order, rules, etiquette. He wants love to be fair, predictable, functional. But love laughs at justice. It does not distribute happiness like an enlightened bureaucrat. It is unequal, unpredictable, sometimes cruel, and profoundly alive. Only those who have loved truly know that laugh. It is the laugh of one who lost control and yet stayed. The laugh of one struck by a desire that asked. No permission, followed no script, was not gentle but was real. Some say women manipulate, and I ask, what did you expect? After centuries of exclusion, censorship, and domestication, what was left but refined influence? When you have no sword, you learn to fight with your eyes. When you cannot command, you learn to suggest. And in that, women have become masters, not from malice but from necessity. They did not subvert the order, they survived it. And those who accuse them today do so, because they fear that women learn to play, and often to play better. But now the game changes. Women are no longer on the margins, and, ironically, that exposes them to a new kind of judgment. When they were discreet, they were respected. Now that they are free, they are called dangerous. What has changed? The threat has moved. It is no longer the body that frightens, it is the mind. No longer seduction, it is sovereignty. The woman who needs no saving disorients the man who always saw himself as hero. And that is when resentment is born, when power changes hands and the old lord discovers he was never as strong as he believed. Do not delude yourself. The resentful man wears many masks. Sometimes he hides behind progressive speeches, praising female freedom, so long as it does not go too far. Other times he resurfaces as a vulgar reactionary, clamoring for the return of a past that only existed in his fantasy. But in both cases, the poison is the same. He cannot cope with loss of control, because to him, loving is still possessing, desiring is still dominating, and being needed remains his only form of identity. Yet there is another path, a path arduous, messy, without applause, but authentic. It is the path of those who choose to love, without inherited scripts, without needing to be the strong, the fragile, the savior, the saint. It is the encounter between two who know there is no redemption, only presence. Two who know that love, if it is truly love, will always be imperfect, tense, inconstant, yet still worthwhile. Worthwhile because it is not illusion, because it does not anesthetize, because it demands everything and in return promises nothing, only the chance to create something that never existed before. This kind of love is not for everyone. It demands a clarity that wounds. It demands abandoning the fantasy of happily ever after and embracing the beauty of we have survived this far. It demands seeing the other as they are, full of light and shadow, grandeur and mediocrity, courage and fear, and still saying, yes, I see you, and even so I stay. This is the revolution, not the equality of bodies or the equivalence of gestures, but the nakedness of two whole beings who look at each other without needing lies. That, yes, is love, not a remedy, but a mirror. Most do not want this. Most want emotional security, affective predictability, and an edited version of love that neither hurts, nor challenges, nor transforms. They want a contract, not creative chaos. But I tell you, the love that does not break something inside you and is not love. It is a social agreement. It is a pact of silence between two who prefer the peace of boredom to the tension of truth. And that peace, know this, comes at a high price. It extracts a toll on the soul. It kills singularity. It transforms lovers into roommates with rings on their fingers and despair in their eyes. But for the few who bear the weight of freedom, something new opens. The possibility of living love not as a prize but as a work, not as a happy ending but as a dangerous beginning. In such cases, it is no longer about being man or woman. It is about being creative force. Every encounter becomes a risk, every gesture a manifesto. There are no longer fixed roles, no guarantees, no absolutions. There are only two beings facing each other, truly naked and yet willing to remain. No promises, but with presence. And like any true work, this love demands destruction. Yes, destruction. Of inherited beliefs, childish expectations, wounded vanities. It is necessary to kill the idealized father, the redemptive mother, the fairy tale romance we were promised. It is necessary to look at love as one looks at a dead god, with reverence and with relief. Because only when love stops being a myth can it become real. And the real is not pretty, nor pure, nor eternal, but it is alive. And life, even in its ugliness, is infinitely more worthy than any paradise of lies. The problem was never love. The problem has always been what we made of it. A contract, an altar, an instrument of control. We used love to bind, to dominate, to justify cowardice. And now when it returns with all its raw power, we become afraid. Afraid to love without safeguards, afraid to surrender without guarantees, afraid to lose. And so we flee to pornography, to apps, to lukewarm relationships. Because all of that is easier than looking someone in the eyes and saying, I don't know where this will lead, but I am here. There comes a moment, and it is rare, when two beings meet and are no longer playing. Neither needs to feign strength nor enact fragility. None demands salvation, nor offers it. They are there, whole. And that is when the true abyss begins, when there are no more excuses, no masks, no moral crutches, only desire and awareness, only potency and vulnerability. It is the most dangerous and the most sacred moment, because from it may arise something that is neither man nor woman, but creation, something that cannot be explained, cannot be defined. It is only lived with clenched teeth and open eyes. The moralist will call this madness, the coward, folly, the resentful, weakness. But they all err, because this kind of love is the only thing that can redeem existence without apologizing for it. Not because it is pure, but because it is tragic, because it carries the weight of freedom, the pain of lucidity, and the fierce joy of living without illusion. To love, this way is like living on the edge of a volcano. The ground shakes, the air burns, and everything can collapse at any moment. Yet even so, it is the only place where the soul feels truly alive. If you have made it this far, perhaps there is a spark in you, a flicker of someone who no longer wants to live on emotional crumbs, affective theatrics, sentimental doctrines passed down. Perhaps you have felt something twist in your chest. Fear not. This is life trying to be born amid the ruins of fantasy. But take heed, this path is not for everyone. It demands that you abandon the roles you were taught, that you destroy the scripts, tear up the manuals, and dare to love without guarantees, to love as a creator, as a warrior, as someone who no longer needs to lie to exist. Now look around. How many live this way? Few, very few. Most still chase affection like one chases anesthesia. But you, if you have endured this video to the end, are no longer one of them. You stand at the threshold. And now I challenge you. Share this truth with those who still sleep. Like this video if there is still something in you that resonates with this lucidity. And subscribe to this channel, not to follow, but to resist. Because here, I offer you no consolation. I offer you combat. And if love is truly worthy, it will be born from this, from the friction of two forces, not from the fusion of two lacks. Here is my final word. Love as one who fights. Love as one who knows the other will never be. Yours and yet stays.